Once we awaken to the principle of cause and effect, we can then explain many things in this life. Once we can explain many things in this life, we then begin to choose for ourselves a way to live. To live is to serve. To live is for dedication. And why do we serve one another? To serve this entire society. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Respected Mr. Nguyen Chan Tan, the General Director, or... Are you the General Director? Ah, the Chairman, I see. So, who is the General Director then? There's a Director? Ah, there are Directors. My apologies. And to the Chairman's wife, to the respected leaders and managers, and to all our brothers and sisters, the workers and staff of... This is Duk Tan Corporation, is it not? Yes, Duk Tan Corporation. Dear Buddhist followers, dear venerable monks and nuns, truly, I arrived here a bit early today, about an hour before, and sat for a while with Mr. Tan. Hearing him say a few things, I had a certain emotion. When I first came, my idea was to speak about cause and effect, about right faith versus superstition, that we shouldn't be superstitious in this life, and that we must know how to serve in life. That was the general idea. But after sitting and talking with Mr. Tan, I felt an inspiration that I also want to share with you all again. Firstly, as we live this life, the poet Don Nu Q once said, "The vast sea of suffering is boundless, its waves touching the heavens. Worldly guests paddle a single boat for leisure, whose boat goes against the wind, whose goes with the wind. Look again, all are within this same sea of suffering, whose boat goes against the wind, whose goes with the wind." Against the wind refers to the person who encounters unfortunate things in this life. For example, being sick, poor, struggling, facing disasters. That's called going against the wind. And who goes with the wind? Someone who is a boss, for example, who is wealthy, has prestige, is lucky. That's called going with the wind. But whether you sail against the wind or with the wind, all are in this sea of suffering. And since we are all in one sea of suffering, we must love each other. That is the duty of the heart. That is the conscience of this life. But the difficult thing is, how many people truly understand this? There are two understandings. First, does anyone understand that this life is inherently suffering? Few people understand this. When the Buddha attained enlightenment, the very first Dharma talk he gave was about the suffering of life. And he has been teaching for thousands of years, yet still not many people understand this, except for those with great wisdom. Once, when I was still young, a neighbor from my old village came to visit me after I had become a monk. He said he also wanted to learn about the Dharma. At that time, the pagoda was very crowded, so I couldn't talk for long. I only told him this: go home. Imagine your hand is holding a pile of money. Think about it. And when you see that it is suffering, then you have begun to understand Buddhism. Since then, for several decades, I have never met him again, so I don't know if he ever figured it out. And in this world, not many people understand this. Many people think that eating delicious food is happiness, that being rich is happiness, that being beautiful is happiness, that having prestige and status is happiness. Everyone thinks so, and they spend their whole life struggling to find those things. But only those with wisdom can understand that in reality, all of us, whose boat goes against the wind, whose goes with the wind, are all in this life, which is just a sea of suffering. But in that sea of suffering, the person who goes with the wind is naturally happier, more prosperous, more prestigious, while the person who goes against the wind struggles and has a harder time. Why against the wind? Why with the wind? It is all due to the law of cause and effect. Our awakening must be that when we understand life is suffering, we must know that within it, the law of cause and effect governs all. Whatever seed we sow, we will reap that fruit. It doesn't just happen for no reason. Like the first time I met Mr. Tan, I said this sentence to him. I said, "You used to be a great mandarin, a general in previous lives, but why in this life is he not an official but an entrepreneur instead? It's just because people bow to you too much. In a past life, you were a mandarin, a general. You also took care of the people, and that merit was not exhausted. But in the feudal era, when a commoner met a high-ranking official, especially an official who was known to love the people, they respected him. They didn't know how to show respect other than to kneel and bow, to kneel and bow. In this life, you lost the merit, and cause and effect is not what we want. You lost the merit to be an official. The merit of your heart, your morality, your virtue, that is still there. but the specific merit for that position is gone because people bowed to you too much. And many of us have this. When we die, people take our altar out and bow to it over and over again. In the next life, we can't even get reincarnated. There are very strange cause and effect phenomena. And in this life, cause and effect is so subtle, it governs many strange and hard to understand aspects. Why is that? Because cause and effect governs. There are people who are beautiful and noble. Their merit is sufficient for both appearance and high status, so they might become a lady. But some people are beautiful and only have the merit for appearance, not for prestige in life, so they have to go around carrying things and serving. It's all cause and effect. And even, to say it more painfully, some very beautiful people are only for being prostitutes. It's very heartbreaking. Why? Because some karma has governed their life. Some karma, what is that karma? Their cause and effect. For example, in a previous life, you accidentally said something wrong, you uttered a slanderous word against someone. Then that karma follows you from this life to the next. And sometimes one life is not enough to pay it off, it takes several lives. For example, if you scold someone, you are a servant. Then in the next life, no matter how beautiful you are, you will only be a servant. If you scold someone like that, or you scold someone, calling them a prostitute, then no matter how beautiful you are, you will only be a prostitute. And even, when you are very angry and you curse each other harshly, you are a dog. Then in the next life, you will only be a dog. Even if it's a rich person's dog, a dog that people adore, it's still just a dog. Everything has its cause and effect. Or there are people like this. Their family is quite well off, happy, but then they go to work, to study, to research some project. And one time they have to do research deep in the forest. They get lost in the forest for 3 days without a piece of rice to eat, a drop of water to drink, almost dying of thirst and hunger right there. Then when they escape, they return to their wealthy life and wonder, why is my life so wealthy? But there was a time I almost died of hunger and thirst. It's only because in the past you drank a glass of water and left half of it, didn't finish it. Or you ate a meal halfway and threw it away. We often leave our glasses of water half finished, don't we? You stand up to leave and look back, the water bottle, the glass of water are both still there. Then in the future, there will surely be a time when you will be dying of thirst. So thirsty up and down without a drop of water to drink. Or if you want a drink, you have to go down to the stagnant water to find some. There are people like that. Sometimes in miserable situations they have to find buffalo wallows to drink from. That is because in the past they didn't finish a glass of water. After I said that, he tried to finish his drink, see? That person is a role model. Or when we are rich, we eat comfortably and happily and then waste it. You should know that there will be a day. Although you don't have the karma to be poor, you are still rich. But you will fall into a desperate situation where for a few days you have nothing to put in your stomach to pay back the consequence for the time you were wasteful. And it's the same. There are rich bosses who fall into a day where they don't have a single dong. Once, there was a chairman of a corporation I mentioned earlier. His projects were worth thousands of billions. But one day he came to the pagoda to visit me and told me, "There was a time, Venerable Sir, when I didn't have a single dong. As the boss, he had to go find his own employee to ask for a loan. He said, 'Lend me 50 million. That man, his own vice chairman, looked at his face and thought he was probably about to go bankrupt. So he shook his head. A moment like that. What was the reason? The reason was wasting money. He showed me his hand. He was wearing a ring that, if sold in Vietnam, would be worth 80 billion VND. His watch? For billion VND. Because he kept spending on those things. There were times he had no money and had to go down and borrow from his own employee. But then it passed because his past merit was still great. But he had to have moments of misery like that. Because everything is cause and effect. Everything is fair cause and effect. Once we awaken to the principle of cause and effect, we can then explain many things in this life. Once we can explain many things in this life, we then start to choose for ourselves a way to live. Now we start to talk about the second awakening. The second awakening is this. Since we are all in the sea of suffering, we have a duty to love each other. The first understanding belongs to philosophy. The second understanding belongs to morality. The first understanding is philosophical, whose boat goes against the wind, whose goes with the wind, look again, all are in the same sea of tragedy. In this sea of suffering, the law of cause and effect governs all. That is the first awakening. And this second awakening is a level higher. It is to understand that living together in the sea of suffering, we have a duty to love each other. This second awakening is extremely difficult. If the first is difficult by a factor of 1, the second is difficult by a factor of 10. For example, we can understand that life is suffering. We can understand that. We complain that life is suffering. Then we understand cause and effect. That everything in this world is governed by cause and effect. We can understand that. But to understand the second awakening, that in this one sea of suffering, people must love each other, this is not easy to understand. Not easy at all. Not many people understand this. Of the thousands of people sitting here, I'd say maybe 2 or 3 people understand this core point. In this life, in one sea of suffering, we must love each other. If I say this and you don't understand, I cannot preach anymore. It's that difficult. And now, my condition is that everyone please try to understand this second principle. Living in this life, in one sea of suffering, we must love each other. And if you don't understand this sentence yet, I can't continue speaking. So I have no choice but to stand right here and just wait. And in here there is one person whom I believe understands, Mr. Tan. Because this principle, that living in the sea of suffering we must love each other, it compels us to love everyone. This is a great morality, a magnificent command of the human conscience. Not everyone has it. For example, I am a teacher and I have many disciples everywhere, many of them young people. I love them dearly, like a father loves his child. But I rarely have the chance to be close to them because I also have little time. When I meet them at festivals, I just see their faces. I don't have the opportunity to ask after them. But in my heart, I am always worried. Worried about what? Worried if they have a job yet. Their parents have raised them until now. Do they have a job yet? And I always have to give them commands. You all must help each other find jobs. Because you are grown up, you must be independent in your work to help your parents. And if a student says, I can't find a job, I tell them, okay, now go beg your parents to support you a little longer, and you go do volunteer work for free. Just do good deeds for free for a while, and when you have enough merit, you will find a job. This means that in my mind, after I worry about morality, my next worry is their livelihood, their jobs. Why? Because that is very important. You must have food to practice the way. You have to eat before you can practice. Initially, everyone comes to me for the practice, for morality. But in the long run, no, you have to eat first. Without food, you cannot practice. That's why at our pagoda, you can eat comfortably. Mr. Tan just said, of all places, eating vegetarian at Phat Quang Pagoda is the best. Because at my pagoda, we are passionate about eating. We love to serve food. Food first. And food is life. Once there is life, there is existence, then we can have higher things. Those are the things of the spirit. And therefore, in this life, whoever gives us life, whoever gives us existence, whoever gives us a job, that person is our benefactor. And who gives us that? The entrepreneur. That is why our government now honors entrepreneurs so much. Because those people, they are the nucleus. They gather everything, money, technology, people. And then what do they produce? They produce jobs. They produce products, services for this life. You must have an entrepreneur as the nucleus, and then everything can gather and then radiate out. And what radiates out? It radiates products, it radiates jobs. And what are jobs? They are the lifeblood of society, of the country. Without jobs, any country will die, any society will collapse. And if there are many successful entrepreneurs creating many jobs, then our society will be stable and develop. That is why the role of the entrepreneur is so important. But there are many types of entrepreneurs. Some, when they establish a business, think of only one thing, profit. They only think about how to make a profit. It is extremely rare to find an entrepreneur who has the ideal, I create a business to create jobs for people. Extremely rare. Except for those who are enlightened to the Dharma, like Mr. Tan. I suspect that, in the beginning when he established this corporation, he didn't quite have this ideal yet. He probably just thought, well, I'll find a job, get rich, make a profit. And when he established this, were you married yet? Ah, so it was to support your beautiful wife, that's all. You weren't thinking much further than that, were you? But when you worked with your employees, saw their lives, their dedication, and then you studied more of the Dharma, then your initial purpose changed. It changed. The business is for what? To create jobs for people and to care for people's lives. Just now I was sitting and talking. I said when we know cause and effect, we try to do good deeds. We hear about a flood. We go provide relief. We see a poor person, we give charity. We see someone sick, we give medicine. Those are good deeds. But I say that merit, you do it once in a while. It's not equal to an entrepreneur creating stable jobs for so many people year after year, right? That is the great almsgiving, the supreme offering. I asked him how many employees he has. He said 4,000 in Anjong and 1,000 in Longan for 5,000 total. And I said, in this world, it's not easy to take care of the lives of 5,000 people. He then said, Venerable Sir, it's not 5,000. It's tens of thousands. Why? Because they go home and support their families. And whenever their families face hardship, he said, I can't abandon them. If a worker's family meets with disaster or illness, they come to him and he says, I feel too much compassion. I can't abandon them. He has to reach out and help them too. He doesn't just care for one worker, but for their entire family as well. When I heard that, my tears fell. My tears really fell. A rare boss, a rare entrepreneur, an entrepreneur, a boss who has morals, a conscience, ideals, and a deep sense of morality. So we were just saying this. The entrepreneur is the one who creates jobs. And if the work is stable, I say this is a great offering, more than all other acts of charity. Those are occasional. But here, the work is stable, everyone's life is stable. That is the supreme offering. A boss who understands this has found the true ideal of establishing a business. Our society is grateful for bosses like this. And when I understood this, I thanked Mr. Tan and people like him. Bosses who have a loving heart for their employees, who have found the true purpose of a business is to create livelihoods, not just to seek profit for themselves. We praise such people. And as I just said, in this same sea of suffering, the person against the wind and the person with the wind must know how to love each other. The poor and the rich must love each other. The suffering and the happy must love each other. The boss and the worker must love each other. And that is the command of morality, the command of the heart. But not many people awaken to this. And a few of my words are not enough to make everyone awaken. But if we don't awaken to this, then the path ahead of us is only darkness. For the person who awakens to this, that we must love each other while living together in the sea of suffering, for that person, the sun begins to appear. Why do I say that? Because everything is governed by cause and effect. When our life has a clear ideal that we live to love everyone, then our karma starts to go in another direction. From here on, every seed we sow into our life will later bear good, sweet fruits for us to enjoy. Our life starts to turn in another direction, towards the light. Happiness and glory await us. But when we haven't awakened to this, when we haven't understood that we must love each other, when we haven't sown good seeds into this life, then our future will continue to be only thorns and darkness. Because if we don't help anyone and don't love anyone, then later, no one will help us and no one will love us. Life is like that. Cause and effect is fair, straightforward, and ruthless like that. Only when we endure hardship, love people, are kind to people, and help people will the good reward await us in the future. The sun will open up. But if we continue to live a selfish, greedy life, thinking only of our own part, not paying attention to or helping anyone, then remember, ahead of us is only darkness. So, the second understanding that I want to talk about, in this same sea of suffering, we have a duty to love each other. This sentence is not easy to understand, but you must understand it. Because if you don't understand this sentence, your life ahead will continue to be only darkness and thorns. You must understand this. And now we say we must understand this, we must love each other. Then what do? We become Ashin. When a person awakens to this, they voluntarily become Ashin. What is Ashin? It's the Japanese name of the female main character in a Japanese film, right? That person specialized in serving. I haven't watched it either, I just heard it sketched out, so I guess so. It means to live is to serve. To live is for dedication. That's all. Our dedication. Our service takes different forms depending on our position, but it's all one thing, service. If our actions are the same, we are living correctly. If we don't yet have the idea of living to serve, we are living incorrectly. Remember that. Let me say it again. What do you live for? To serve everyone. If you don't have this goal, you are living incorrectly. If you are asked, what do you live for? And you scratch your head and say, I live to eat. This is living wrong. I live to have fun. This is living wrong. Only when we say, I live to serve, then we start to have a correct life. But how to serve, that is another issue. Even in Buddhism, the patriarchs always remind us monks of one sentence. To serve sentient beings is to make offerings to all Buddhas. They always repeat that sentence. Venerable monks and nuns who ordain step into a special status. They renounce the joys of the world, practice austerities so that one day they become an exemplary teacher of morality. They stand at a high level. And so, people who understand this, no matter their age, when they meet a venerable monk or nun, they must call themselves child, Khan, placing them on a level as high as their own parents. Why? Because these are people who have renounced ordinary joys for a noble, holy life. They stand in a high position. Do you think being high is for doing noble things? No. To be high is to serve sentient beings. And to serve sentient beings is to make offerings to all Buddhas. In our religion, one of the noblest vows of a bodhisattva is to make offerings to the Buddhas. As the bodhisattva Samantabhadra taught, first, pay homage to all Buddhas. Second, praise the Tathagatas. Third, extensively practice making offerings. The third noble practice of a bodhisattva is to be able to kneel down and make offerings to the Buddhas. To be able to do so is an indescribable happiness. But the patriarchs have reminded us, if you want to make offerings to the Buddhas, what do? You serve sentient beings. So in the end, what is it? It is still service. No matter our status, we are still just a person who serves, and in that we are living this life correctly. If we have other thoughts, I live for something else, we are living wrong. In the end, we must think it through for ourselves. We live to serve. You must think this through day and night, rack your brain to figure it out. Turn off your phone. Think until you realize. To live is to serve, then you have found the true meaning of life. Now, for example, in our company, who serves whom? Someone might say, well, I serve my boss. I work and he gets all the profit. I don't know if that's right, Tan, but I don't know. Recently in India, a boss gifted hundreds of houses and 1,600 cars to his workers. The world praised him as boss of the year. I asked Mr. Tan, and he said, yes, every year I also build 1 or 2 houses for my people. So he does it steadily year after year. He thinks about their long-term well-being, so that when they leave the company, they don't leave with empty hands. So now, who serves whom? Whoever can answer this question, I will praise them highly. An audience member speaks. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Venerable Sir, my thought on your question is that my boss serves the employees by creating jobs. And the employees also serve the boss back by doing their job well, so the company is profitable. That is 2 people serving back, and fourth, that is loving each other. Monk responds, intelligent. Intelligent. Let's have a round of applause. Very intelligent. Does anyone have anything to add? Another audience member speaks, Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. I'll continue my colleague's idea. Besides serving us, his employees, his responsibility is also much larger. To contribute to society. Monk responds, I was waiting for this sentence. My question was a trick question. The gentleman over there answered the first step correctly. And this lovely lady here is the one who added the supplement. We serve each other so that we can serve this entire society. That idea is what is perfect. So, thank you very much. Let's have a round of applause. And that is service. To live in this world is to serve. So now, if we think that we serve each other only within this community, it's not wrong, but the merit will not be great. So when we, as a worker, sit and pedal the sewing machine, we shouldn't just think, I am sewing this to serve the boss so the boss can make a profit because the boss has provided for me. Don't think just that, because that will lessen our merit. As you pedal that stitch, you must think of bringing benefits to society, creating a product for society, generating tax revenue for the nation. Because through these transactions, taxes are generated. That tax money goes into the national budget, and that budget becomes roads, schools, and hospitals. So when we sit and sew, in reality, we are not just making a shirt, but making a road, making a hospital, making a school. That idea is what is truly perfect. So here we ask, who serves whom? Only those who don't know how to think would think, I am just looking for a meal for myself. But a person who knows how to think will then see that their life is beautiful when they live to serve. And this is the value of life. However, once a person knows how to live correctly, by choosing the ideal of a life of service, that is right. But the level at which we serve depends on our merit. The important thing is to serve, but the level at which we serve is our merit. For example, does the General Secretary serve? Yes. He serves this country. A flood in one region, he hears the report and must see to it. A bridge collapses, he must be briefed. He has to worry. Even though he may not be directly involved, he must be reported to and understand how to resolve the issue. He worries about the affairs of 100 million people. We see him as powerful sitting in his high office, but in truth, what is that position for? It is also just for service. Now, what about a soldier on a distant border? What is he doing? Also serving the country. Protecting this nation is serving his fellow countrymen. If intelligence knew we had no soldiers on guard, they would attack us in 5 minutes. They don't attack because they know that every hour, every minute we have people gripping their guns on watch. Because someone is tensely holding a rifle, we can live in peace. We can go to Malibu to play, go to the beach for a swim, enjoy a concert tonight, all because there are people out there gripping their rifles. That is also service. And what about monks like me? We must also serve. We care for the spiritual aspect of people's lives. Why? Because in this life, when it comes down to it, the ultimate refuge for our souls is spirituality. After our basic needs are met, humans always seek a spiritual anchor. To live only to eat is to be at the level of an animal. A wolf or a tiger lives only to eat. But humans, after the basics are solved, always seek a higher value. That value belongs to the spirit, knowledge, philosophy, morality, spirituality. That is what brings true human happiness. Whether we become saints or not, we don't know. But human intellect demands that we reach for a high aspiration, spiritual enlightenment. And spirituality is precisely the value of a saint. Monks and nuns serve that aspect of life, satisfying humanity's thirst for the value of a saint. Now, if we walk into a hotel, the staff must serve the guests, right? We walk into a restaurant, the staff must serve the customers. We board a plane, the flight attendants must serve the passengers. We go home. Children must serve parents. And our parents serve our grandparents. Our entire society is ultimately what kind of machine? A machine of mutual service. And anyone who fits into that machine of service is a person living a life of value. While everyone is serving each other, loving each other, being responsible for each other. If we detach ourselves and go off to play, what are we? First, we gradually lose our value. Our merit diminishes. And finally, we no longer have the merit to maintain a human existence. What does that mean? After death, you are reborn as an animal or as a wandering ghost, lingering by some roadside, scaring people once in a while, and that's it. You can't be a person anymore. Why? Because you have removed yourself from the great machine of service, contribution, and dedication among people in society. So the person who always holds tight to the idea of service, dedication, that person will retain their human status and value. But the person who renounces the idea of service will be eliminated from human status. There are only two paths, then, to become an animal, or a ghost lingering for hundreds of years until they feel remorse. Only when that person re-embraces the idea that life is for service can they preserve the value of being human. Remember this. So now we ask, what is the value of being human? We just say one sentence, it is to serve. So let's examine our own hearts. Do we have that idea firmly in our minds yet? If we've only been serving unintentionally, out of circumstance, this is a precarious situation. Because if you weren't placed in a situation where you had to serve, you would run off and play immediately. So today, we talk to each other to install the idea of service, life is for dedication, firmly into our hearts. To carry this idea with us from this life into future lives. For example, what if in the next life you go up to a heavenly realm? In heaven, it's even more super service, covering many realms. In the end, it's just service. So when does service end? When does it ever stop? Whoever can answer this question is brilliant. Mr. Tan speaks. In my opinion, Venerable Sir, to serve well is to bring peace and happiness to everyone around us. As for when it ends, I think that service never ends. It only goes from one level to another up to the highest realm. Shakyamuni Buddha also had to serve sentient beings. He also had to descend to the world to teach. Even Shakyamuni Buddha still serves. So, for me, service will never end. It will only move higher and higher. Monk responds, there could be no better answer. Absolutely correct. Why did you get married? You should have become a monk and preached the Dharma. A person who understands to this level, why did they get married and have children? It must be because this lady here tricked him. Truly, he understands very correctly. And not everyone understands this. I am a bit surprised you could answer this. I thought this question would be difficult. Even the Buddha still serves. We will pose the question. Does a Buddha in nirvana serve? A Buddha in nirvana serves the entire universe. He is unmoving and serene, but in that serenity, that compassionate mind radiates to all sentient beings, waiting for any being with a karmic connection to secretly use his spiritual power to guide them. We use another word for that, service. Just as Tan said, becoming a Buddha means continuing to serve, and that service becomes even more limitless. I didn't expect that Mr. Tan could answer this. Let's have another round of applause. You really should have become a monk, you know. My goodness, what a waste to get married. The first time they came to see me, they told a story. Tan asked his wife, "What do you think is your greatest success in life?" She thought for a moment and said, "My greatest success in life was tricking you." Exactly. That trick was my loss, you know. You stole one of my future monks. To understand to that level is not easy. Even the Buddha must still serve. So if even the Buddha still serves, what about us? We must try even harder to serve. And what is our ideal? To live to serve. What is our joy? To be able to serve others. Please remember this. Our attitude from now on will be completely different. Our joy is when we get to serve other people. Remember that. At my temple, during major festivals, it's very crowded, about 20,000 people each time. The leaders of our Dharma groups, many of whom are very wealthy in society, when they come to the temple, they are the ones who serve. They carry rice, carry water, give blankets to others. They go and worry and serve. I stand there and observe. And I say, correct, these people are the children of the Buddha, because they know how to live a life of service. They never step into the temple and think, I am a boss. At home, they are a real boss. But the moment they step into the temple, they immediately become an Ashin, and they are happy. I see it on their faces. When they hand someone a glass of water, their faces are radiant with happiness. And I say, okay, this person has found happiness. They have found a correct way of life to serve their fellow human beings. Even if in the outside world you are a boss, when you enter the temple, you shed that layer and become a servant to all and are very, very happy. And so it is today. I say this so that everyone can reaffirm their principle of living, their ideal to be able to serve others. And happiness is when we serve others, not when we sit arrogantly while others bring us water. That is suffering, not happiness. The act of bringing water, serving, caring for others, that is the happiness of this life. So it turns out, what is a saint? A saint is simply a person of service, one who loves to serve. An ordinary person seeks to be served. That is the difference. One path leads to light, the other to darkness. This path begins with small things. You see someone without a chair, you find one for them. That is a small service, a small happiness. You go home and, having understood this principle, you ask your parents what they'd like to eat. The soup isn't important. The happiness your parents feel knowing you love them is 1,000 times more valuable. There was that video of the mother duck whose ducklings fell into a storm drain. Workers came, rescued them, and then stopped traffic so the family could cross the road safely. They were only serving a family of ducks, but it was a moment of joy that brought happiness to millions who saw it online. This shows us the true meaning of life. The true joy of life is service. The person who dedicates their entire life to serving others is a saint. That is all. But the thing is, do we dare to offer our whole heart, our whole life to service? Or are we still hesitant, caught between our ego and our selfishness? I say this because I am a little worried. Because as we sit here talking, we've all agreed, haven't we? Yes, to live to serve is happiness. We agree on that. But to what extent do we serve? To what degree? Because in a single moment, no one has enough capacity to vow to serve all beings for their entire life. That level is still small. Until one day, through our practice, a day comes when our entire life, every pore of our skin, every breath we take, exists only for others at that moment. We will have attained the fundamental enlightenment, to live only to serve and nothing else. Not for oneself. Not even a bite of rice is for oneself. You don't even bathe for yourself. This might sound strange. If I don't bathe for myself, who do I bathe for? You bathe so that the people around you don't have to smell you. It's true. There's a story of an enlightened nun who was cooking rice. She wanted to leave the temple to go teach. Her abbot said, "Don't go. Just keep cooking rice." She didn't believe cooking rice was as important. A bodhisattva even appeared in her dream and warned her, "If you don't cook rice for another 3 years, you will never be able to teach the Dharma." She was stubborn and left anyway. And just as foretold, she was never able to give a Dharma talk again. Why? She refused the act of service in the kitchen. She didn't realize that the mundane act of cooking was what was opening her mind. When she refused to be a servant, her brain closed right back up. The law of cause and effect is that powerful. So if you see someone who speaks very well, you must know that this person was once a very good servant, especially in the kitchen. The person who serves a lot, their brain opens, and they become a good speaker. To speak well, you must have good ideas. To have good ideas, you must have wisdom and experience. To have those, you must have merit. And to have merit, you must have served. Therefore, only when we bow down and become a dedicated servant to all beings will all good things open up to us. Our life will begin to unfold, and one day, we will attain a higher status. Now in Buddhism, the law of karma exists naturally like gravity. No one created it. The important thing is how well we understand it. It's not easy. Usually, we only understand the basics. You reap what you sow, but it's more complex. We see someone who is beautiful. What karma leads to beauty? It's not just one thing. It is praising others. Living a moral life. I want to emphasize praising others. The more you praise, the more beautiful your face becomes. The more you criticize, the uglier the person in the mirror gets. So if you want to be beautiful, praise others sincerely. Someone might ask, "My house was full of misfortune, then a feng shui master came and things got better." How is that karma? It is all connected. Your house, your face, they are manifestations of your karma. When your karma is due to change, someone will naturally appear to help you. It's the same as a doctor curing an illness. The doctor is just the condition. The real reason is your karmic debt for that illness has been paid. If we don't understand this, we become superstitious. What is superstition? It is the desire to expend very little effort to gain a very large reward, often through some spiritual shortcut. It's offering a bunch of bananas to win the lottery. It's getting a mole tattooed for good luck. It's not wanting to do the hard work of service. A person with right faith understands you must sow a cause to reap an effect. And sowing a cause requires your whole heart, your whole life. It is hard work. When you understand karma, you work 1,000 times harder than before. You no longer passively let life push you. You push life. You proactively seek opportunities to love and help others. That is what is important. Let me tell you a story. On the internet, there was a young man who praised himself for being very lucky. He said he had been very unlucky before. He couldn't find a job. One day, an old man told him, "You have to do good deeds to get good fortune." "But I have nothing," he said. "You have blood," the old man replied. "Go donate it." He did 4 or 5 times, and his luck completely changed. He got a job, things went well. It's cause and effect. Blood is precious. To dare to offer it to save a life, perhaps his blood saved a good person, and so his merit increased 1,000-fold. From then on, he understood. So when we are lucky, we should take the opportunity to help whoever we can. And the things I've said about service, they aren't lofty. They start from very small things. Sharing a chair. Sharing an orange. These small acts build our morality. It's not just about grand gestures like organizing a relief trip. The true meaning of service is in the small things in this life. So today is also a fortunate occasion that I could come here to Duc Tan Corporation. We have a chance to speak a little about morality with each other. In that, we emphasize that the ideal of life, the meaning of life, is what? It is service. And whose job is it to serve? As Mr. Tan has already discovered, even the Buddha is still a person of service. How much more so for our humble selves? And who do we serve? We serve even a family of ducks, as in the story we just heard. How much more so the beloved human beings around us? And why do we serve each other? To serve this entire society, as this lady answered so correctly. I wish everyone much health. And may your company see much development and success. May everyone find the meaning of life, happiness in life. And in the end, may we all become great servants. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha.